During the filming of The Chosen's most sacred scenes, Jonathan Rumi's spiritual director, Father Ian, flew specifically from across the country to Texas just to celebrate Mass for the actor on set. This wasn't a publicity stunt or religious formality. It was a desperate recognition that portraying the Son of God during his final hours required supernatural intervention. How does an actor prepare spiritually to embody the most pivotal moment in human history? What kind of divine support does someone need when cameras roll on scenes that have shaped billions of lives for 2 millennia? The answer lies in Rumi's radical approach to spiritual preparation. Unlike typical method acting, his process involved months of intensive prayer, scripture study, and what he called spiritual firepower. As a devout Catholic who celebrates the Eucharist regularly, Rumi understood that filming The Last Supper wasn't just professional work, it was entering sacred territory that demanded reverence, humility, and divine guidance. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. Father Ian's presence during the most challenging scenes wasn't coincidental. Rumi specifically requested his spiritual director be present during the filming of the Last Supper and Garden of Gethsemane scenes, saying, "I just wanted to be armed with as much spiritual firepower as possible. He's a priest, so he said Mass for me that day. I felt prayed up, put it that way, before entering into the scene." The preparation extended far beyond individual prayer. Rumi remained deeply devoted in prayer right up to the filming of those scenes. And throughout filming, in between takes, I'm on my knees most of the time, just praying that the Lord allows me to inhabit a sort of a window pane of His being, that people are able to see through me to Him. This wasn't theatrical preparation, it was spiritual warfare. Rumi acknowledged that Season 5 was probably the hardest and most challenging season to film, with scenes requiring him to transmit the essence and importance and the weight of that moment in human history. The actor recognized that portraying Christ's establishment of the New Covenant demanded more than talent or technique. It required surrendering completely to become, in his words, a transparent vessel through which audiences could encounter the divine. Rabbi Jason Sobel arrived at the Texas set, carrying more than theological expertise. He brought ancient traditions that would transform how the entire cast understood their roles. The Messianic Jewish scholar had been tasked with something unprecedented, teaching Hollywood actors the intricate details of a 3,000-year-old ritual that Jesus himself had observed. We all face moments when our spiritual journey feels incomplete, and understanding God's plan seems beyond reach. In those moments, discovering the connections between ancient traditions and modern faith can illuminate everything. This is exactly what the secret of Jesus' apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook goes into his prophecies and offers insight into what lies ahead. It's available for free in the pinned comment. Grab it now before the edition's gone. The cast gathered around tables arranged exactly as they would have been in first-century Jerusalem. Elizabeth Tabish, Noah James, and the other disciples watched intently as Sobel unwrapped 3 pieces of matzah from a special bag called a matzah tosh. The middle piece, the afikoman, was broken, wrapped in linen, and hidden away. This represents Jesus, the second person of the Trinity who was broken, buried, and resurrected, Sobel explained. The name itself carries dual meaning. He came and he will come, pointing to both Christ's first and second comings. Jonathan Rumi sat transfixed as the rabbi demonstrated each element. When Sobel later invited Rumi to his own home for Passover, an amusing moment occurred that captured the surreal nature of their work. Sobel's young son turned to his father and remarked, "Dad, It's really weird that Jesus is sitting at the table and you're leading the Passover. The innocent observation highlighted the profound responsibility resting on Rumi's shoulders. The theological connections Sobel revealed were staggering. The blood on the doorposts that saved Israel's firstborn in Exodus mirrored the blood of Christ on the cross. The bitter herbs represented suffering, while the wine symbolized joy and redemption. Every gesture, every blessing, every traditional element pointed toward the Messiah who would fulfill these ancient promises. As Sobel guided them through the Hallel Psalms, traditionally sung during Passover, he emphasized Psalm 118. The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This verse, quoted multiple times in the New Testament, took on new meaning as the cast realized they were preparing to film the moment when Jesus transformed this celebration into something entirely new, the establishment of the new covenant through his body and blood. The cameras began rolling on what everyone expected to be just another day of professional filming. Within hours, something inexplicable had transformed the entire atmosphere of the Texas soundstage. For 6 consecutive days, the cast would relive the Last Supper, and with each take, reality seemed to blur with the sacred story they were telling. Noah James, portraying Andrew, found himself overwhelmed by emotions he hadn't planned or rehearsed. "I didn't have to think about how to act during the last scene," he later revealed. "The intensity of the moment simply invaded me. Emotions arose naturally, without rehearsal or prior preparation. Something had awakened inside him that defied explanation, a connection to the historical moment that transcended mere performance. Between takes, an extraordinary phenomenon occurred. The actors, still in character and costume, would embrace and weep together. To outsiders, it might have appeared to be exhaustion from long filming days, but everyone on set recognized something deeper was happening. George Harrison Santos, playing John, described the experience as worship rather than work. When he looked into the faces of his fellow cast members, his brothers, he understood the true meaning of their shared mission in ways that words couldn't capture. Elizabeth Tabish faced perhaps the most emotionally demanding scenes of her career as Mary Magdalene. The writers had crafted moments where Jesus didn't teach or perform miracles, but simply listened and allowed the women to serve him. These intimate scenes required Tabish to tap into profound wells of emotion day after day. By the end of filming, she was completely dehydrated from crying, not from acting technique, but from genuine spiritual encounters that left her drained yet transformed. The revelations that transformed the cast's understanding are just the beginning. If you're seeking this same depth of spiritual insight, remember that only a few copies remain available in the pinned comment below. The supernatural atmosphere wasn't limited to individual moments. Cast members described feeling transported to first-century Jerusalem, as if the boundaries between past and present had dissolved. The carefully constructed sets faded into the background as authentic emotions flooded through scenes that had been rehearsed countless times. Script pages became secondary to the raw, unscripted responses flowing from hearts that had been touched by something beyond human understanding. Each evening, when filming wrapped, the cast would gather in quiet reflection, many still processing what they had experienced. The tears that flowed weren't manufactured for cameras. They were the natural response of people who had encountered the divine in ways they never anticipated. Behind the monitors, Dallas Jenkins found himself in an impossible position. As director, his job was to maintain control, call cut when scenes ended, and guide the technical aspects of production. Instead, he sat paralyzed by emotion, unable to interrupt moments that had transcended filmmaking entirely. Time after time, Jenkins would reach for his headset to call the end of a take, only to find himself overwhelmed by what was unfolding before the cameras. The technical crew, seasoned professionals who had worked on countless productions, began abandoning their posts. Hardened sound engineers stepped away from their equipment, wiping tears from their eyes. Lighting technicians found themselves unable to focus on their tasks as the sacred atmosphere enveloped everyone present. These weren't people easily moved by on-screen performances. They were witnessing something that defied their professional experience. Most remarkable were the crew members who had entered the project as skeptics. Several team members who, in Jenkins' words, didn't even believe in Jesus, sought him out privately after witnessing the filming. Their confessions carried the weight of genuine transformation. They had never experienced anything remotely similar to what they were witnessing on set. These conversations weren't casual exchanges between takes. They were profound moments of spiritual awakening happening in real time. One crew member approached Jenkins with trembling hands, struggling to articulate what he had observed. "This type of experience cannot be faked," he finally managed to say. "It just leaves you amazed." The man had arrived at work expecting another day of routine filming, but found himself confronting questions about faith, purpose, and the divine that he had never seriously considered. The production schedule began adapting around these supernatural interruptions. Scenes that should have wrapped in standard timeframes extended as Jenkins recognized that something beyond human planning was orchestrating events. The normal rhythms of action and cut gave way to organic moments where the cameras simply continued rolling, capturing authentic spiritual encounters rather than scripted performances. Even the most hardened veterans of the entertainment industry found themselves shaken. Assistants who had worked on dozens of productions described feeling as though they were witnessing actual historical events rather than recreations. The professional distance that typically exists between cast, crew, and story had completely evaporated, leaving everyone involved as participants in something mysteriously transformative rather than mere observers of manufactured drama. Just as the crew members experienced unexpected spiritual awakening, you too can discover life-changing truths. Don't wait. There are only a few copies left for those ready to take this transformative step. The timing seemed impossible, yet undeniably orchestrated. Just after completing the most emotionally intense week of filming the Last Supper scenes, Jonathan Rumi was scheduled to speak at the National Eucharistic Congress, an engagement he had committed to a full year before anyone knew when Season 5 would be filmed. When he realized the dates aligned perfectly, Rumi initially panicked, knowing he never left sets during active production to maintain his creative focus. "When I agreed to participate in that conference, I think it was a year before. When I saw the date on the calendar 6 months before, I thought, oh no, I'm going to be in the middle of the filming. How am I going to do this?" Rumi recalled. His normal protocol was absolute dedication to remaining in character throughout shooting periods, yet this commitment demanded he break that sacred rule. Standing before thousands of Catholic faithful, Rumi discovered that his week of filming had become the perfect preparation for his address. "It was easier for me than I imagined to speak about the Eucharist because I had literally just lived it for a week," he explained. The profound experience of portraying Christ's institution of Holy Communion had given him insights that no amount of theological study could have provided. The synchronicity extended beyond scheduling. During the filming of Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, over 600 extras surrounded Rumi, shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David," with such authentic fervor that the actor felt transported to the actual historical moment. "I felt completely overwhelmed by the experience and thought, Wow, this is what Jesus would have lived when he entered, what he would have felt at that moment, Rumi shared. For those precious minutes, he wasn't acting. He was experiencing something that defied rational explanation. These convergences revealed deeper theological truths that the cast hadn't anticipated. The connection between the Passover lamb's blood on doorposts and Christ's blood on the cross became viscerally real rather than merely intellectual. Dallas Jenkins expressed how the experience opened the eyes of many to see how the story of Moses and Exodus connects directly with Jesus. The ancient prophecies, the symbolism of matzah, the significance of wine, everything converged in moments of revelation that transformed understanding. The divine orchestration became impossible to ignore. The time of God was clearly present in all this, Rumi reflected, recognizing that forces beyond human planning had aligned circumstances to create something extraordinary that would impact not just the production, but everyone involved in ways they were only beginning to comprehend. The divine timing that orchestrated these miraculous moments extends to you as well. With only few copies remaining, this could be your appointed moment to access the same spiritual breakthrough. Check the pinned comment below before it's too late. The transformation that occurred on the chosen set created ripple effects that extended far beyond the final day of filming. Cast members returned to their daily lives permanently changed by what they had experienced. Paras Patel, who plays Matthew, described how unexpected emotions hit him in moments that the script did not anticipate. It was not just an act, it was something alive, something that made even the actors cry for reasons they could not fully explain. This wasn't temporary emotional residue from intense scenes, it was lasting spiritual transformation. Jonathan Rumi found that his personal relationship with Christ had deepened in ways he never anticipated. Spending so much time with Jesus and thinking about Jesus and reading his words in order to be able to play him is something that you cannot avoid. The impact that that's going to have on you as a person, he reflected. The role had become far more than professional work. It had become a spiritual journey that reshaped his understanding of faith, service, and divine love. The impact reached audiences before Season 5 even premiered. People who had watched earlier seasons began sharing testimonies of lives transformed by encountering Jesus through the series. Rumi recounted meeting someone whose friend had suffered from severe anxiety, unable to drive or leave her house. As they started watching the show, something started to change within them, and their faith grew, and this lady started going out of her house again, and now she's driving again, and she credits that to this impact that it's had on her faith. What distinguished The Chosen from typical entertainment was its ability to create genuine spiritual encounters rather than mere emotional responses. The series had become a bridge between ancient stories and modern hearts, allowing viewers to experience the humanity and divinity of Christ in unprecedented ways. The intimate portrayal of Jesus, laughing with friends, experiencing grief, showing righteous anger, made him accessible while maintaining his sacred nature. If these insights resonate with you, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your super thanks support helps us create more content like this. Join our community and stay connected. Season 5 promised to bring this extraordinary experience to global audiences hungry for authentic spiritual content. From the emotional intensity of Palm Sunday's triumph to the intimate moments of foot washing, from the prophetic warnings about betrayal to the establishment of Holy Communion, viewers would be invited not simply to observe, but to participate in the most pivotal week in human history. The miracle that paralyzed the set had become a gift to the world, proof that ancient stories retain their power to transform lives, that divine encounters remain possible, and that sometimes the boundary between performance and reality dissolves entirely when sacred ground is entered with reverence, preparation, and open hearts.